1956. A small bathroom in suburban Pennsylvania on a late autumn night. A woman stands before the vanity mirror, the heavy glass of a Pond's cold cream jar cool against her hand. The house is perfectly quiet, save for the rhythmic, metallic tick-tock of a wind-up clock down the hall. A faint draft of cold air slips through the cracked window, mixing with the soft, powdery scent of roses and lanolin. But the strange part is this. Nothing in her routine looked like a modern sleep aid. She had no white noise machines, no expensive melatonin gummies, and no weighted blankets. Yet, when she closed her eyes, she experienced the kind of deep, unbroken rest that modern women spend billions trying to buy back. These are 15 vanished bedtime rules every 1950s woman followed for perfect sleep. They disappeared not because they failed, but because you cannot put a price tag on quiet discipline. Now, before we dive in, tap that subscribe button. You will not want to miss what is coming next. Today, the sleep industry is a multi-billion-dollar machine. We rely on apps to track our breathing and synthetic pills to force our eyes shut. But in the 1950s, rest was not a product. It was a practice. The women of that era relied on quiet, unspoken rules, simple rituals passed from mother to daughter that prepared the body and the mind for the night. These habits vanished, not because they stopped working, but because the modern world convinced us that convenience was better than discipline. The deeper you look, the less old-fashioned these habits seem. What disappeared was not the result. It was the knowledge around it. Keep watching until number 1, because it reveals the ultimate forgotten standard that changes everything. And the countdown begins exactly where the evening starts to shift. Number 15. The deliberate wind-down hour. Long before digital detox apps existed, the 1950s woman had a strict rule. The house must quiet down. About an hour before sleep, harsh overhead lights were clicked off. Only the warm, amber glow of a table lamp remained in the living room. The radio was turned down low or switched off entirely. It was a physical signal to the brain. Today, we drag our exhaustion across glowing screens until our eyes burn, treating sleep like a sudden switch. Back then, sleep was a gradual descent, a conscious choice to leave the world's noise behind. Number 14. Cracking the bedroom window. Even in the dead of winter, a 1950s woman would open her bedroom window, just a crack. The chill would creep in, bringing the crisp, earthy scent of the night air. Science now tells us that a drop in body temperature triggers deep sleep, but your grandmother already knew this without a laboratory. Modern homes are sealed tight, keeping stale, warm air trapped inside. The old way relied on the fresh, freezing draft to force the body under the covers, making the warmth of the bed feel like an earned sanctuary. Number 13. The heavy wool blankets. Today, you can buy a specialized weighted blanket for over $100 to calm your nervous system. In 1954, it was simply called the winter wool blanket. Layered over a crisp, flat sheet, these blankets were thick, slightly scratchy, and wonderfully heavy. When you slid underneath, the sheer weight of the wool pressed down on your shoulders and legs, instantly grounding you. The industry did not invent the anxiety-reducing blanket. They just rebranded a mid-century household staple and charged a fortune for it. Number 12. The ironed cotton nightgown. Sleep was an occasion that required proper attire. Women did not go to bed in the stained, worn-out t-shirts we so often settle for today. They wore cotton nightgowns, washed and often pressed flat with a hot iron. Slipping into it brought a distinct sensation, the clean, cool rustle of fresh fabric gliding over tired skin. It separated the labor of the day from the purity of the night. It was not about looking glamorous in the dark. It was about self-respect. Notice what these first few steps had in common. They were not products you could consume. They were environmental shifts. The bedroom was preparing her body for sleep before she even closed her eyes. Number 11. The hot water bottle at the foot of the bed. Since the window was cracked and the room was freezing, the feet needed protection. Enter the humble rubber hot water bottle. Often a dull, brick-red color, it carried the faint, comforting smell of heated rubber. Filled with water just off the stovetop, it was tucked under the blankets at the foot of the bed. The intense, localized heat warmed freezing toes, drawing blood away from an overactive brain and lulling the body into a heavy slumber. It was simple, penny-saving thermal engineering, practiced every night in the dark. But the next group of tricks moved from the bedroom environment straight to the vanity mirror, where the rules became even more personal. Number 10. 100 strokes with a boar bristle brush. Before modern sleep meditations and relaxation podcasts, there was the boar bristle brush. Sitting before the vanity mirror, a 1950s woman would methodically brush her hair, often counting out loud or in her head to 100. The stiff bristles made a rhythmic swish, swish sound through the hair, stimulating the scalp and pulling natural oils from the roots down to the dry ends. It was an ingenious beauty trick that eliminated the need for chemical shine serums. But more importantly, the repetitive, almost hypnotic physical motion forced an overactive mind to slow down. It was a private meditation disguised as grooming. Number 9. Pin curls and silk scarves. The brushing was often followed by the quiet work of setting pin curls. Her fingers moved with practiced speed, twisting damp sections of hair and pinning them flat against her scalp with cold metal bobby pins. Then, she would wrap it all in a smooth silk or satin scarf. Modern women might see this as exhausting, but it was actually an act of mercy for her future self. She was solving tomorrow's problems tonight. Waking up with her hair already done gave her a deep sense of control over the upcoming morning rush. By this point, the pattern is no longer about just getting physically tired. It is about closing the tabs in your brain. Every physical action at the vanity mirror was a signal that the day's labor was officially over. Number 8. The cold cream cleansing ritual. Today, nighttime skincare is a stressful, expensive 10-step routine involving acids, toners, and serums that promise youth but often deliver anxiety. In the 1950s, the vanity held one heavy glass jar, cold cream. Whether it was Pond's, Jergens, or Noxima, the ritual was the same. She scooped out the thick white cream, massaging it deeply into her face. The heavy texture melted away makeup and daily grime, carrying a distinct powdery scent of beeswax, mineral oil, and rosewater. She wiped it away with a soft tissue. That was it. The beauty industry split this single, effective step into a dozen different bottles, convincing us that complexity equals luxury. But her simple, greasy jar did exactly what it needed to do, leaving her skin protected and her mind uncluttered. Number 7. Heavy hand cream and cotton gloves. A 1950s woman's hands were her most heavily used tools, scrubbing floors, washing dishes in hot soapy water, mending clothes. Her secret weapon for recovery happened while she slept. She would massage a thick, heavy layer of lanolin-rich hand cream into her knuckles, then slip on a pair of soft, white cotton gloves. The gloves locked in the moisture, repairing the cracked skin in the dark. Slipping those gloves on felt like a quiet surrender. It was an unspoken acknowledgement of her own hard work, a silent way of tending to her own wounds after caring for everyone else. But the vanity mirror had done its job. As she left the bathroom and moved back into the shadowed house, the next few rules shifted away from the body. They were about protecting the household. Number 6. A warm kitchen remedy. Long after the dinner dishes were washed and dried, a 1950s woman might make one last trip to the dimly lit kitchen. She was not opening the refrigerator to scroll through her phone. She was heating a small saucepan of milk or steeping a simple cup of chamomile tea. Standing in the quiet kitchen, the house completely still around her, she would hold the warm porcelain mug in her hands, letting the heat radiate into her palms. The modern world relies on synthetic sleep capsules and melatonin gummies housed in plastic bottles. But this was a slow, domestic remedy. It was not just the warm milk that calmed her nervous system. It was the profound stillness of the dark kitchen that worked as the real sedative. Number 5. Setting out the morning clothes. Moving back toward the bedroom, she performed a task that modern women often abandon due to pure exhaustion, laying out her clothes for the next day. The dress, the undergarments, the stockings, all draped neatly over the back of a vanity chair. Today, we often view this as a chore, but it was actually a gift of time. Decision fatigue is a modern epidemic because we wake up to chaos, frantically searching for clean clothes in a rush. She woke up to order. It was an act of preparedness, a quiet discipline that cleared her mind of tomorrow's anxieties so she could truly rest tonight. The closer we get to number 1, the less this is about physical objects, and the more it is about mental armor. These were not just habits. They were quiet standards, repeated until they became character. Number 4. Winding the mechanical alarm clock. On the nightstand sat a heavy metal alarm clock. Before getting into bed, she had to manually wind the key on the back, a distinct ratcheting crank, crank, crank sound. Once wound, it produced a rhythmic, metallic tick-tick-tick that echoed softly in the cold room. It was a mechanical heartbeat. Today, we sleep next to glowing smartphones that silently vibrate with late-night emails and global emergencies. The mechanical clock did only one thing. It told time. Winding it was the physical closing of the day, and its steady ticking became a comforting acoustic anchor in a silent house. Number 3. Locking up and checking the stove. The final patrol. Before retreating to the bedroom for good, she walked down the hallway to check the perimeter. She felt the cold brass of the front door deadbolt, clicking it firmly into place. She ran her hand over the smooth enamel knobs of the kitchen stove, ensuring no gas was leaking. Modern anxiety often stems from a feeling of being exposed or out of control. This simple 5-minute walk through the house was a nightly reclamation of safety. She could sleep deeply because she knew her domain was absolutely secure. With the house locked, the clock wound, and tomorrow prepared for, only the final 2 rules remained. And these last steps were the most sacred of all. Number 2. The mental closing of the day. Once under the heavy wool blanket, the 1950s woman did not immediately shut her eyes. She practiced the mental closing of the day. For 15 or 20 minutes, bathed in the amber light of the bedside lamp, she would read a physical book, a magazine, or quietly recite her evening prayers. The sensory experience of this moment was profoundly grounding. The soft, dry rustle of paper pages turning, the physical weight of a hardcover book in her hands, the quiet hum of her own breathing. Today, millions of people suffer from sleep dread. We lie awake because we spend our final conscious minutes doom-scrolling through global tragedies, work emails, and the perfectly curated lives of strangers on glowing screens. We invite the entire chaotic world into our beds. Her habit of reading or praying was a psychological boundary. It was a way of saying to her own mind, "The day's labor is done. The world's problems can wait until tomorrow. And I am putting my thoughts away." She closed the book, clicked off the lamp, and the room went pitch black. And now we reach the one that explains all the others. The final rule was never just about a physical object. It was about a boundary that the modern world has completely erased. Number 1 is the reason these habits still feel deeply personal decades later. Number 1. Keeping the bedroom sacred. If you walked into a 1950s suburban bedroom during the day, you would notice something striking. It was empty of entertainment. There was no television mounted on the wall. There was no desk piled with paperwork in the corner. There was no glowing tablet resting on the nightstand. The bedroom had only one purpose. When a mother or grandmother walked through that bedroom door and closed it behind her, the outside world ceased to exist. The porcelain sink was left in the bathroom. The kitchen stove was wiped clean. The laundry was folded in the basket. She did not bring the day's labor across the threshold. Today, our insomnia is not a medical mystery. It is a design failure. We sleep poorly because we have turned our beds into offices, movie theaters, and 24-hour news hubs. Our brains no longer associate the mattress with rest. They associate it with stimulation and stress. When your grandmother smoothed out the covers and turned off the lamp, she was enforcing a strict, unspoken rule. It was not a lack of technology. It was discipline. It was not old-fashioned. It was dignity. She protected her sleep because she knew that a woman who controls her rest also controls her life. The industry wants you to believe you need a pill to fall asleep. But she knew you just needed a door, a clear boundary, and the courage to close it. That was the ultimate secret. The 1950s woman slept deeply because she knew exactly when the day was over. And that brings us to the hardest truth of all about what we have really lost. These 15 rules did not disappear because they were ineffective. They disappeared because the modern world figured out how to package and sell what used to be free. The industry could not monetize the heavy weight of a wool blanket, the freezing draft of a cracked window, or the rhythmic ticking of a mechanical clock. So they sold us pills, apps, and artificial noise instead. But what we truly lost was not just the physical objects. It was the quiet discipline. It was the wisdom, passed softly from mother to daughter, that rest is not something that just happens to you. It is something you consciously prepare for. It is an act of self-respect. Somewhere tonight, a heavy glass jar of cold cream is being opened. Somewhere, a mechanical clock is being wound. And a bedroom door is firmly shut against the endless noise of the outside world. And without a single word, the lesson begins again. Which of these forgotten bedtime rules do you miss the most, or still use in your own home today? Let me know in the comments below. If you found comfort in this journey back in time, please tap the like button, subscribe to the channel, and click the video on the screen right now for more unspoken rules our grandmothers knew.